Hello. Let's see if this works. We'll go over the games that got me to 2000. I won 5 games in a row. And so we are 2000 in Rapid. And we have these 5 games, and I'm going to go over them. Minimize myself. Okay. Oh, you know what's interesting is I don't even have to have this be a separate recording. It could just be how you see me. Like, I suck at this, but this is something I could do like this. Anyway. Alright. This way I can just upload one file. So, let me turn it down. We have a Sicilian... No, we don't. We have... I forget what that's called. But based on his development of his knight, I decided to play this move to potentially restrict it. And then he pins me, and I ignore that and go for this pawn with ideas of sacrificing and then checking protected by the bishop and then winning his unprotected bishop. So he protects his bishop, and then I pin it to his queen, and then he unpins, and then I hop this knight. Because I played this pawn here, I hop this knight here, which also protects this, which frees the queen. Because normally if the queen moves, he takes here, and then I can't castle this way. So here, best move is actually, I think, developing there. But the problem with that is I don't want to allow this fork. So I put the queen here. The idea of that is maybe I get the rook. I'm also freeing up this knight, getting out of the pin. Now he does a double attack, and I just take it because I've gotten out of that pin, and I want to preserve my bishop position. Now here, I'll probably play f3 here. Yeah, the reason for f3 is because I want this rook to be able to go here and attack this queen. So he goes back, and this is where I've won the game, basically. Because I played with white and played all these moves in a sensible manner, he has made the concession that he didn't want to go to the back row. He didn't want to block his queen and be pinned. He went here, and now I can just take. And this is not my normal play style, but in this particular example, this is something to play for as white, because this pawn is going to be a target for the queen. The queen can immediately get a double attack here. And so first I castle queenside, and that way when my knight moves, it comes with an attack on the queen. This queen comes out. I play this king move to protect this and to get off of this diagonal. When you castle queenside, you want to move your king one extra spot anyways, so might as well defend this pawn and not allow any variations where he's coming in and checking me. Alright, so now he attacks the bishop. His king has some weaknesses in the light squares around him. I don't have a light squared bishop, but I do have a queen, and I do have a knight that can use this square. So first I back up, and you'll notice the knight has no way to attack this bishop because of my pawns. And he plays here. Now, this is a bad move because although you're defending this, it was already defended, and it's not like you're putting a light squared bishop here, and you're cutting off the queen's ability to come back and save the king. So now I attack the queen, and the queen would normally be able to retreat and stay in the main part of the game, but instead the queen is now here, and that means I win this pawn. So this double pawn I ended up winning just by waiting for my opponent to cut himself off, because if I attack the queen immediately, he goes to the logical square of c7, defending this and getting out of the attack. So by waiting and then doing it, I'm winning this pawn. And that's going to make this pawn even easier to win. Also, you see I'm in just a couple moves with a tempo. I am going to be attacking his rook and bishop. So he plays here, trying to get his queen back in the game and attack this knight, which allows me to get the fork. And now at this position, computer prefers to keep the knight here. The knight is so close to the king that it is very valuable if I just reinforce it. But I decide to take the bishop because this bishop is going to outplay this knight. That's the plan. And I immediately go for a move that would have been impossible if he had his bishop there. And I'm attacking his weakness. He has it defended, but I'm ready to reinforce that rook and double up. So he attacks the rook, making it so I can't actually play rook d1 without dropping this pawn. But I play it anyways, and I say go ahead, because that's going to open up against your king, and I'm still going to have a double attack on the back row. And my idea is, if you take here, I will check, and we will exchange rooks, and my rook will be in your back row. You'll be in check with a weak king that can be potentially hunted down by my queen. So that's the plan. Now the king goes here, and the question is, have I played this correctly? Can this bishop outplay this knight? I'm defending my weak point, otherwise I'm very strong. He still has this isolated pawn and a weird king position. I'm in his back rank. Moves like queen to here threaten here, but these two pieces are blocking that. So first thing I do is I play a4. That way, if there's any check here, I don't have to worry about blocking with my pieces and allowing any trades, or like if I block with the queen, he can win this pawn. So I play a4 first, saying, you know, maybe I end up going here and taking here and using this bishop to win 2 pawns for 1 pawn. But primarily I'm getting a lift from my king. He goes back attacking my rook, and I defend the rook. I'm saying, you know, this is my trump card, my rook in your back row. He attacks the pawn, so I back up, defending the pawn. Still, now he is attacking my queen and my rook, so I have to exchange. And now it's just knight versus bishop with some queens, and I have a better pawn structure and a safer king. However, this pawn, instead of being here, is slightly vulnerable, but I don't care. I go for this now, with the idea of again pushing and maybe using my bishop. He hops in, attacking my weakness, and I can't really attack the knight because he can win this pawn that I just pushed and be attacking my bishop. He also is threatening to use his pawn to come into my position, and then, you know, he has some ideas of checkmating me with the knight here. The knight here is not good for me. So first thing I do is I push here. That way, if I ever attack the knight, I'm at least not dropping a pawn. He pushes. He doesn't want to get my bishop active. And here, because of that push, this push makes my queen want to come in and check the king. So I want to attack the knight. However, again, I don't like that move hitting my bishop. So I think first I'll just attack this undefended knight, and he can't go here. And also I'm thinking my bishop's going to be attacking this pawn. which means when the queen comes in and starts checking him, maybe I can win this pawn. Even if the king is defending it, I can say checkmate, right? Because that knight has to move. It wants to move though, so black's position is actually very good here. I've basically misplayed this because bishop is better than knight, but not if the knight is protected by a pawn and attacking a king. So at this point, I don't see a way to win, so I play this pawn move, opening up my king, his king for a check, but I'm dropping this pawn with an attack on my king, which I don't appreciate. I check. I have less time than him. He's playing very well. He steps to the side, and again, this is the pawn I want to attack. But I have to be careful of these discovered knight moves. I don't see anything major. I'm looking at, you know, obviously that would win my queen, but it's my turn. So I go into the back here, threatening a check, and then to go queen. This is not a good idea for white because black has actually best move in the position is knight to here. If knight goes here, I'm in check, and if I go here, it's checkmate, and if I go here, it is also checkmate. So that's a blunder by me. So he goes the wrong way, luckily, and I'm able to hide here where I wouldn't have been able to if his knight went to the correct square. The reason he went that way is because this way looks dangerous because the knight can be killed eventually, potentially. So he goes the other way. I move. He goes to defend his weakness, and I exchange. And now the power of the bishop versus the knight is felt. A knight and a queen are extremely strong together. In fact, better than a knight and a bishop. But once the queens are off, which is what I was hoping for, now this is not my playstyle, but I'm trying to incorporate it into my playstyle, is go after isolated pawns, trade queens, and be up this little minor advantage and try to win an endgame. But here it's enough because I have a passed pawn that's protected, and I'm winning that pawn. He cannot go defend it. That's why the bishop is better. Knights are short range pieces. So we get into a situation where I'm just gonna win this pawn, and there's really nothing that knight can do except a trick, which is when I go to queen, he goes here. If I queen here, I lose the game to knight takes bishop, winning the queen and the bishop. So I could promote to a knight here, defending my bishop, and win the game, but I obviously just defend my stop the check, and then he sacks for the pawn, and then from here I'm defending the weakness, and this pawn is gonna push and queen, and this pawn can't stop it, and neither can the king. So once the king goes behind to win my only vulnerable point, I can just push, and there's going to be a queen, and that's game over. Okay, so let's go back. Let's go to the next game. I blundered mate and 2 in that game, but still won. All right, so in this, can we go full screen? All right, whatever. It's an imperfect video, but really excited about finally hitting 2,000. So here we have a Carol Khan defense against the Queen's Gambit. I play knight f3, and he takes. Now, the Caro-Kann is very dangerous for Queen's Gambit accepted because he's threatening to play b5 and is protected by c6, and then he's going to be up a pawn and be attacking and protecting this pawn that he's up, and that's not good. So first I play a4, and that's preventing the ideas of b5, because now if b5 I take, and the knight can take. So you might think, well, I can play a6 and then b5, but then your rook becomes undefended, and also there's a lot of situations where my queen or bishop end up winning your rook because you're overextended. So first I play this move, that's getting the bishop out to threaten here. He takes my knight with his bishop, but again, this is bringing out my queen with the danger. Excuse me. Okay, so now you cannot play b5 really, because I'll take, and you can't take back without dropping your rook. So I just take the pawn because I'm ready to castle, and he brings his queen out. Ignore it. Brings his bishop out. He's getting ready to castle. So I just attack his queen. He cannot castle because his queen is under attack. His queen does not have any good squares, except maybe here, or here. He decides on c7. At that point, now I'm thinking of knight moves, which would cause his pawn to move, which would cause my rook to be able to attack the queen, something like that. So first I get my bishop out. I'm developing the bishop, protecting the knight, and like I said, getting the rook to be able to use this file against the queen. He castles. And I end up going to the b file because I'm going to end up playing like this. That does leave my bishop a bit vulnerable, but I don't want to move this one to the b file because I dropped this pawn. And I do want to have a rook on the b file to negate this bishop for the b4 move. So he hops in, play b4, and that is attacked twice. And so I don't recall if I did that on purpose or not, but the point is these rooks are active. Even though I'm sacrificing a pawn, my rook is more active than his rook because it has a semi-open file now. And this queen's diagonal presence is always felt until this knight moves. So now I also get to hop my knight into his position with a double attack. So yeah, you won a pawn, but now your knight is in danger, so it has to move back. And from here, I get to move again. It's my turn. And so I have sacrificed a pawn to get this attack. And it's defended by a queen, attacked by a rook and a knight. So the threat is rook takes, and then I'm winning. You can't move the pawn because I will take it, and if you take back, you lose your rook. So this pawn is felt, this knight is felt, and this rook is felt. This rook is felt, and if I want to eliminate that knight, I can. And this bishop is able to come here if I eliminate that knight. So also I'm basically saying go ahead and give me your bishop, in which case I take back, and now my bishop is good here for the checkmate ideas. But he's coming in to win the pawn, but I am attacking his knight. He goes back, and now you see that the bishop, I could go here to play for the attack, but I decide I'm going to go here temporarily. This diagonal isn't going anywhere. There's no black bishop, a dark squared bishop. There's no black bishop at all. So it's knights versus bishops. So I'm down a pawn, but I have a bishop pair and some active rooks and this advanced pawn, and I'm temporarily holding on to this advanced pawn, and so I'm clamping down on any break he has over there, and then these bishops are going to outplay these knights is the plan. But he immediately has a fork, ruining all my fun. I have to move the queen, and now he can take the bishop, but he doesn't. He should, but he doesn't. Instead, he thinks he's winning a pawn here because my queen has to defend this bishop and can no longer defend the pawn. So the queen is overloaded. So he takes that, but that's a problem because now the power of my bishops are felt, because now both these knights are under attack, and this knight, if it moves, I get to win the other knight with the bishop attacking the queen and the king position. So this is actually kind of a miserable position for black because of this little decision. If black stays disciplined and just wins the bishop, lets my queen recapture and hold on to these 3 pawns, black can claim to fight for a draw or a win. But once he goes in for this, trying to be up 2 pawns, he realizes he's going to lose a piece here probably. So he attacks. This is actually, it's not a good move, but it made me think, because it's like, uh-oh, if I drop the bishop back, he can take that, and then my little threat is gone. So what do I do here? I decide to take, rather than get distracted, I decide to take and lure the queen out. And the reason for that is because this knight is awkward. So I'm going to attack it. And if you play your pawn up, your king is exposed to this attack. And also I have ideas like f3, which kick the knight and then I win the queen. So the queen is not able to hold on to the knight. However, it is, because if I ever play f3, the queen can check and the knight can hide away. Also, this pawn does do a good job of defending that knight, forcing me to play f3, which causes the check. So this is actually a losing idea for white, but it was good enough to make him give up the piece, because he didn't see all that. So he's like, okay, well, I'll just be up 3 pawns and give him back the knight, because I'm able to take this knight and still defend my bishop. So at this point, he has way more pawns than me, but he's pushed this in front of his king, and he doesn't have a bishop. So this is actually a very trivial win for me from this point on, because I'm immediately threatening checkmate. If you take the bishop, I'll just have an extra rook and win. And if you don't, if you block here, I'm winning this pawn with check. So he has to block with the queen because he can't play this move. Pawns can't go backwards. And now I can just take the queen, and my bishop is going to be way more powerful than a few pawns, because this pawn is still alive and I still have ideas of queening it, and this king is vulnerable, and I'm gonna win this game. He goes after this pawn. If he can exchange these pawns, and I have no queen idea, then maybe he's the only one threatening a queen on that side of the board. Maybe I misplay it. So I decide to keep my pawn alive. And now the only way to remove this is to somehow get your rook around and attack it from behind. But I will exchange rooks, and then it'll be rook and bishop versus rook, and I have a pawn that's about to queen, and that means you'll never be able to kill this pawn because the bishop can protect it, and then it'll be rook versus rook, and your rook will be trying to stop this queen, and my rook can eat all the pawns. So this game's over pretty fast. I just win the pawn. He threatens a checkmate, of course. So I defend my bishop, giving my king a lift. The bishop can never be attacked by anything unless he wants to sack a rook. So he goes for a queen, but I'm getting my own. And so he exchanged rooks, but I'm alive, and he can go here and try to prevent this. but he can't because his king is checked, has to move the king, and now I get a queen. And these guys are not getting past my bishop. And the king can't threaten the bishop. The rook can clean everything up, so this game's over. So he resigns. Alright. Oh, shit. On to the next one. Stats. Rapid. Okay, so let's go to the next one. All right. So we play a little Sicilian opening here, and he does the canal attack, pinning this knight. Not a big deal. Sometimes I like to get rid of this or do that, but then the pawn structure gets bad, and sometimes I actually lose that game. So first I go here, so I don't have to take back with the pawn, and then I attack. Especially when he plays this move, I attack the bishop because there's no convenient way to defend the bishop. If he defends it, he's going to have to hop his knight on the edge of the board. So that's what he chooses to do, actually. And then so I just attack it again, saying, well, if you take here, I will take back with the queen, removing the queen from blocking my pawn to go up the board, the b pawn. So he actually goes back with his bishop, and now he's blocking his own pawn, and my queen is pretty good here. He does have some maybe pushes, so I actually immediately put the queen out of the way of this pawn because I really want to be able to play that move. I've done my job attacking this bishop and causing a weird knight, and so now the queen actually is moving twice in the opening. He plays his bishop back. This is kind of high level stuff from both of us, getting out of the way of our pawns. Beginners do not do that. They just play the pawn moves they can play. They don't really think about moving their pieces out of the way first. So now I have this pin with, now that I've defeated this bishop idea, my knight is threatening to come in on the e-file and harass this knight. So he immediately plays best move, but I can back up, and now g5 is dangerous for white because this knight and bishop give themselves up for 2 pawns, and now your king is weak and the queen can come in, and maybe I go on to lose or win or a draw, but it makes it very scary for white either way. So he does not do that. He first develops his bishop. That's a good idea. But now I have this knight move, and now you see the issue. If the knight takes the knight, I kill his queen, and if he doesn't do that, if he just plays like a random pawn move, I'm checking him, and he cannot recapture with the queen. He would have to take back with the pawn, and then the queen immediately attacks this, and he has bad pawns, and I haven't even sacked a piece, so he has to play g5 here. Now at this point, I think about my position and the long-term pressure against the queen, and I think, ooh, I'm so smart. I'm going to take with this knight, because when he takes back, I take again, and now I've sacked the knight for 2 pawns, but this threat is still here. And how are you defending this knight? However, he does not have to take this back. He can actually take this first, and then if I take back, he kills my bishop with his queen, and I'm blocking my own attack on his queen, so that would be his best move, but he doesn't see that, and instead he defends like this, holding on to his knight for dear life. This rook is not stable here. That's why I could play some moves to get the bishop to just win this rook and then try to win this knight. And maybe the king comes out to try to help. It's kind of a strange position. So first I bring the queen back. This is a very big error by me because I'm doing something that I thought would work that totally does not work. what I thought about is when I take, his queen cannot take back. His rook has to take back, which blocks the queen. So then I have a check, and when I check the rook, I should be able to win the rook, and the queen can't take back because I'll have these two attackers. So I'm basically saying the queen is the third attacker because of this check. But, and then he attacks my knight. I thought best move would be king up because I thought this didn't work because I thought, well, even now the simple knight takes knight forces him to either piece taking forces him to give up a rook because he can't go in with the queen right away, so he would have to go in the rook, and then I win the rook, and then the queen is alive, but so is mine. So it's basically, do I want to exchange these two pieces for these two pieces? But I'm trying to get more than that. So first I take, and then he goes here, and I've freed up the square to check the king, thinking I'm winning this, protected by that, and that should be game over. But I missed this move. He can just block the check, save his rook, and attack my queen all simultaneously. And my knight is still under attack. So if I move the queen, he kills my knight. So I have to exchange queens here and move my knight. I could go here or here, but I decide to go first for a capture. And then I could go here, at least attacking that, but that gives him an excuse to play bishop there, defending his king and defending everything. So I'm like, I'm just gonna go here with some weird attacking ideas and acknowledge that there's no actual attack in the center for me. He goes there anyways. So now I just push, and he plays a bishop move, getting his other rook in the game. His king is still weak, but the rook does a nice job. The bishop does a nice job defending. This knight is bad. That's actually the only thing that I have going for me, because at this point I'm like tilted because I completely screwed it up. So first I attack the bishop, so he takes, and then I move in, and the idea is to go here and check him and win this bishop for free or win this rook. He sees that and he defends that. So again, this square is not available, but by taking, I'm forcing the bishop to give me that square, forcing his king here. Now the king cannot go forward, so maybe there's a checkmate here. So I start to go try to make a queen and checkmate him. And I'm also acknowledging I am getting completely destroyed. If he can get his knight back into the game, he has an extra bishop, I'm gonna lose. So first he attacks my knight, and I move it again with the idea of winning his knight for free because I need to get a piece back. But he can just kill this knight, and then that's not very good for me because he'll have a bishop and a knight and two rooks versus two rooks and a bishop, so he'll be up this knight. But he goes back. He doesn't want to give it up, and he doesn't want to give up this bishop yet because if I move the knight now, he can just win this pawn with check. So I just keep going for my queen because that's one thing I have going on, but not much else. He moves the king. This is a great move. Now he can stop the queen. Better though would probably be just rook stopping it from moving. But instead of going on, because if I play a3 here or h3, he's just gonna stop it, and then there are two rooks looking at it, and I have no way to defend it. So I'm like, I'm gonna move the bishop or the pawn up with the idea of attacking the rook, and then he can't go here because it attacks both squares. So now he goes in for the kill. He kills the knight, and when I take back, he kills my pawn I just pushed. It looks like a crippling loss for me, but I'm still defending this because I haven't over pushed it yet. Yes, he can come over and win it, but now I have these center pawns I can hide my king behind, and there's still this really bad knight. Okay, so first I just decide, well, I don't want to allow any sort of exchange on this pawn, because this pawn is going to be my saving grace. So I'm willing, even though I'm down pieces, I'm willing to exchange these bishops just to secure this pawn, at least as long as I can. He takes, I take. That gets my king up. So both our kings are up. Obviously, you can see he has a knight on the opposite edge of the board that I'm trying to queen. His 2 rooks should be enough to stop it, but while he's doing that, I'm going to try to take advantage of this knight, and if I can win that knight, maybe I can fight my way back. So first I go here. The idea is checking the king and winning these pawns, but the real idea is preventing the knight from re-entering the game, because it can't go here. I still have the b5 idea where I can attack the knight, and the knight only option, especially if rooks are exchanged going up here, the only option is the knight on the back row. When the knight is on the back row, then the rook can use this square, get a check, and win a pawn, and then maybe I'm switching my strategy to trying to queen over on this side of the board. So first he plays this pawn move. That would make the knight able to use this square. It also makes it so a check here doesn't win that pawn, although I'm still winning that pawn, but that's the idea. So I play b5, saying, haha, you cannot use that. So now he moves his king, and now he's insisting on saving this knight without going to the back row, giving up this square to the rook. Now I play a super key move, pawn here. The idea of pawn here is if I attack the knight right now, which is tempting, it goes here, and then I'm screwed, because if you attack it, it goes here, and the knight is forever in my position. So I have to have a pawn here preventing me from abandoning this square, so that when I attack it, it still can't use there, and it has to go here or here. That's the idea. So first I go there, and he could exchange, but either way I'm winning this square. He just pushes, which is not a good move. So now I attack the knight, and he has to go to the back, but he goes here because he's stubborn and he wants the knight to not be a terrible piece, and he thinks he's holding everything together. But this pawn attacks the knight and facilitates an attack on the rook, and the king is overloaded. So check, you have to make a choice. Do you save your rook or do you save your knight? He chooses to save his knight, I win the rook. If he chooses to save his rook, I win the knight with check, winning this pawn, equally devastating. So anyway, now I push this pawn, and I have 2 rooks versus rook and knight. So even though I misplayed the middle game, he's winning this pawn and he's threatening another one, but I don't care, because I actually just want to reroute my rook to exchange and get a queen, okay? And so he sees that and he decides, I'm not going to go in for the extra pawn and try to queen these. I need to keep my knight in the game defending this pawn, because I was actually going to win this real quick and then do it. That way, if it doesn't go my way, at least I have a new plan in the middle of the board. So that's why I went here. But it's fine. If you defend this, I'll just go here, and this is going to work. So he brings his king. Doesn't matter. I'm attacking the rook. The rook has to move. And now I play a pawn move. I'm 1 move away from attacking this rook, and if he takes, the queen is there. So he puts his king there, and then I step here, and he runs out of time. The game is over, because if he plays a pawn move, for example, there's a check, and if he takes, I'm getting a queen protected by the rook, and his only move is to run away with the king. And when he does that, this pawn is protected. He basically, this rook can't really move, because if it ever does, I'm gonna queen, and then these rooks are more powerful than the knight. My king's, it just, there's a million different ways to win here. So he ran out of time. All right. we got this game. Okay, so yeah, this was a fun game. They call it a marshal. I don't know how to play the marshal. I just know that I'm allowed to make this move. And he plays this. Now, this is a weird position where he's very over advanced with his pawns, and I don't really see the point because my knight can still use this square, and everything's fine in black's position, so I just fianchetto like normal, and then I castle. And so I'm saying, congratulations, you have a pawn here. I don't see how that's relevant. So now I can attack it as a weakness. If you do nothing, I will exchange, and then this pawn will be a target for me. If you ever try to defend it like that, this bishop becomes overwhelmingly powerful with moves like e5. So he exchanges his weakness in the front, and now I have an active rook here, and I still have c5 ideas. So I'm not seeing the point of white's play. I play c5, he takes, I take back. Now I do have what's called hanging pawns kind of, but actually no, because this pawn is here. So I play this pawn. This bishop could have come out to here, but I don't want to allow any knight to win it, and I'm just keeping it alive back here and closing it off here by defending this so that I only have one pawn to worry about. He plays here. There was some pressure on that pawn, obviously. Now the rook is allowed to move. I just developed my knight normally. This is the best move by the computer. It's undefended, but it's not easy to attack. I mean, if he comes out and attacks it, I can easily defend it, or just it's not pinned or anything, so not a big deal. So now he plays the rook move, and he's maybe got an idea of b4. So I just decide to ignore that and play bishop b7. And even if the rook eventually hits my bishop, I'm saying my bishop is good here. It's better than yours because it's actually attacking your king, and yours is not. So I like my bishop here in the long term. If these middle pawns are gone, my bishop's going to be good here, and I'm not afraid of anything on the b file. So he hops his knight back with the idea of putting his bishop here so that I don't have that dominance, and I hop my knight back with the idea of getting out of the way of this pawn so that maybe my queen comes in and my rook gets involved, and then I can bring the knight back. And also I am temporarily not allowing b5 because I will just win the knight straight up. So this is a sneaky move, not allowing b5. He plays knight b6. Again, you have a rook behind a pawn that you can't push because you're dropping this knight, and now you're blocking it with your own knight, and you're attacking this, but I literally just defended that, and that's my only weakness. So this knight doesn't want to stay defending that, so first I just attack the knight because I'm playing this move, blocking in his bishop, cementing, my plans, and I give him this square, but I can take that, and he cannot take back with the queen because of my bishop. And when he takes back with the pawn, this is a permanent weakness. There are no pawns to defend it, and I'm already attacking it, and his queen is the worst defender possible other than a king. So I will immediately attack this pawn with an attack against his king, sort of, but basically my threat is winning this pawn. And how are you defending that? So he defends it with his bishop, which is enough. The queen and the bishop are enough to stop my queen and bishop, but it's about what is happening while we're focused on this pawn. What is changing in the position? Well, what's changing is my queen is right next to his king, my bishop is aimed in that direction, and my king is safe with a fianchetto bishop. The rooks are connected. he would still have to move his queen. This knight can go here, and I've already got the queen through that. So first I play f5. Now if the knight comes here, I've really taken advantage of the fact that the knight temporarily moved, because it's better to have your rook and queen playing than a knight blocking your own pieces. Also, my bishop was felt in some of those variations. So he plays f5 or f4. I hop the knight in, and now I have ideas of checkmate right here. And I have enough power so that all this power of this battery is negated by the queen being over here. A queen's not easy to kick because of this pawn preventing a bishop attack if I hide there. So the knight can actually use this square. So he brings the rook over with the idea of meeting me here and attacking my queen, but I don't care because the knight is good here, and when you attack my queen here, I actually decide, well, if I bring the queen back, he can win the knight, and when I take back, he wins with the queen, wins a pawn. So I decided I'm just going to kill your bishop, sacrifice my queen, and then kill your queen. And now we have an even position, except I have a bishop pair. My king is more safe. My weakness is here, but it's not easily attacked. You have a piece in the way. And this is going to decide the game. The fact that I have this protected pawn that's advanced, his weakness is right here. And my rooks are going to double up, and he cannot move it because I will just take. So first thing I do is attack it, move the bishop out of the way, simultaneously defending my only weak point. He plays here. I just decide to double up. I could go all the way up here, but then there's a bishop move that attacks it, and I have to move it back. So I just move it up here. He takes here. If I take here, I'm going to probably lose this game because he comes in with the knight. So I take this direction, opens up my king, but prevents this knight from getting into the game. So he goes back with the idea of checks, because he couldn't check when he was there. But now I have a double attack here. How are you defending that? He decides to defend with the knight. So he's got a rook and a knight defending his weakness, which I'm attacking. And black is playing for a win here because now I can just go attack the knight when I exchange this bishop, which isn't doing anything, for this knight, which is defending here. After that exchange, I win here, and then this is going to be a queen, or I win this pawn, and I'm just up too many pawns. He pins my bishop, freeing up his rook, because the rook is stuck defending this from this check. So there are ideas here of just taking this with check, and when the rook takes, then I take this pawn. But then I'd be sacrificing a bishop for 2 pawns in activity, and it might be enough to win, but I don't think so. So first I move the king out of the way, renewing the threat. And then when he checks me, I just move up. And there's no check here because this pawn actually does a good job defending the king. And if he ever is attacking this pawn, I can move it and the bishop will defend it. Here, this is a legitimate attack on my bishop. The king cannot defend that. I could just move the bishop, attacking his knight, simultaneously defending this. But I decide, why am I even going to allow any sacrifice, any ideas of winning this bishop when the bishop is perfectly happy here attacking this pawn? How are you attacking this pawn? If I can attack this weakness and this weakness at the same time, this knight is overloaded. The rooks have no actual point of entry, except maybe all the way down here. But again, I would just take, and then when this goes, then I'm winning that. So he goes back, and he is holding on to everything for dear life. But I still have a free piece. The bishop defending my weakness. Now my king is defending that weakness, which means the bishop is free. So the bishop attacks the knight. He moves the rook back. He's double attacking this. So double defending, and the bishop defends the knight miraculously. I take the knight anyways The bishop recaptures. He has successfully defended absolutely everything. The rook is still overloaded, but I don't want to sack a bishop for the situation. So, and I also can't, normally you would come in here, but the bishop actually takes that. And that's not good enough either. So first I go to trade the rook. And once we trade, now the bishop actually has moved, and now I'm attacking this guy again. Once the king moves. So his king moves, my king moves, and I'm hoping he doesn't see this. But he does. He sees this. So now maybe I can think of something. I am still winning here by just long term. This is just too weak. He's devoted so much resources to this that now suddenly this would be a check, and he wouldn't be able to take back because of his king and my rook. So he moves his king. Okay, but now I'm attacking this pawn. His king is defending this pawn, but my pawn is allowing my rook to enter, and we only have a minute left. And his bishop, he basically isn't able to, he would have to come around here and have the rook here to be able to win my weak point. But he starts to try to go for a queen. I go here because the king is blocking the bishop, and now I have a real threat here, and he cannot, there's nothing he can do because he can't defend through his king. So this pawn is dropping, and it's interesting here, there's actually only one winning move here. If I take with check, I cannot adequately deal with this queen. So first I take with the bishop, which gets back, and his rook is kind of blocked by his own pawn. This is an attack on his rook. It's an attack on this pawn. This rook is still safe by this pawn, and I'm defending that. So this is the way to win the pawn. And he offers a rook exchange. I accept because I get back, and there's no way to queen this guy, because this pawn is never, the beauty of this whole game is this pawn can never do anything, because I will always just exchange, and then I'll play against this pawn. So he goes here. I start to run the king over. I played the bishop here. There's absolutely no move. And I'm winning this pawn. And when I win this pawn, I'm still defending this. Bishops are extremely gifted at fighting against pawns in the endgame, because they can just snipe across. They just don't allow any queen through. Like, you can have a bishop here just cutting every potential queening idea. So, and we have opposite colored bishops, so there's no competition. Maybe sometimes you can secure a draw as white, but not here, because this is a check, and I can't go win that. I have to stay on this diagonal. So I go back, no harm done. These 4 pawns are too strong. Even before he blunders the check, this is 1 pawn island. He has 4 pawn islands. I have 2. And this one is close enough to my king and can also go on a dark square where this bishop can never kill it. So this pawn's actually not vulnerable at all. Anyway, I run over. I save this pawn. There's nothing for white to attack. I force the king back and play here, and you'll see there is absolutely everything on a dark square here, except for this, which the king is protecting, and it's preventing the king from advancing. So now I can win this pawn. And here I just exchange and bring the king. And it looks, this is sometimes how white can draw, is by patrolling everything with a bishop. But my king's going to get through here and go win this guy. He's trying to come and save it. I could just kill it, but that would allow the king. I mean, there's a million ways to win here. Basically, instead of killing this, I just realize you can't stop this queen. So I queen, and I queen again, and he runs out of time. And this is going to be a check and a mate if he moves his king again. All right. So that put me at 1994. And then this is my final game. So he's playing a King's Indian defense, and I'm getting all these pawns in the middle. This is defended by the knight, and I'm threatening to attack his knight, so he goes here. That's how you play this opening. You play this pawn move before you castle, because you don't want to get that knight attacked. So I bring my knight out, and then I attack this bishop, and I say, go ahead, take my knight. I will recapture with the queen, and yes, you're attacking this pawn now, which the knight and the queen are both not defending anymore, but your knight's in your own way. So that's what we do. So he decides to go here. The idea is always e5, and I don't care about that because I can play the bishop defending this, and there's no knight move attacking my bishop because of the h3 and the queen there. So the bishop is allowed to be nice here, and he castles, and there's still no e5, and it's not good enough for black here, I feel like. So I just play a calm bishop move. I could play out to here, but I decide maybe I'll just leave this file open for my rook. He plays e5. The bishop is ready to recapture. There's actually no problem here. So, but I decide I'm just going to move the pawn because now your bishop is staring at a pawn, and I don't see how my bishops are inconvenienced by this position. In fact, I think my bishop's better than yours, and this bishop will easily be liberated and is a good piece. So he plays a5, and I castle because any activity on the queen side is irrelevant because my king's on the king side. And now I have ideas of actually beating him on the king side with these pieces. I can move the queen, I can play g4 and then move the queen and play f4 and kind of just push this knight out of the way and exchange pawns and use my queen position to attack his king. But instead I decide I'm gonna play a4 because I still don't see any threat here because I can always take back, and I want to stop any potential advantage of space he has. So he hops in now with a knight, and he's going for this pawn, which is already defended twice. There's no easy way to attack my queen, especially when you don't have a light squared bishop anymore. So I don't care, and I actually just go here with the idea of b5. I could just play b5 now, but if he takes, it's an attack on my knight. And then if my knight goes here, he wins this pawn. So b5 doesn't really work, even though I want it to work. I want to play b5 first and then rook here, so I don't allow this knight move. Instead, I play the rook here, and I'm threatening b5, which will liberate my position and win the game. And I'm not comfortable with a queen side attack or a king side attack, so I'm trying to play on the queen side, but this allows the knight in with an attack on my rook. This is misplayed by white. This is not how you're supposed to play, but I have such a good opening leading up to this moment that I'm like, okay, so what? I attack your knight, right? So where are you gonna go? Well, unfortunately, he has this square, and this sucks for me because if he goes here, normally I would want to kill it, but then his pawn takes, my knight's under attack, and his dragon bishop is felt. The whole reason I'm winning this position before this is because this dragon bishop doesn't actually do anything, but now because he snuck his knight in and this pawn recaptures, that completely liberates his dark square bishop. So I have messed up. So I take the knight because it's attacking my queen. And then my plan here was to put the bishop here. And the bishop will support my weakness on e4, which he can easily attack. And it will prevent the pawn from pushing, which will remain, the bishop will remain trapped if I can blockade. But the problem is my knight is already hit. And so best move is knight here with the idea of b5. I felt that that was too predictable, and also I might just get stranded in the middle game struggle where he's trying to win this back. I mean, so I decided to just go back here with ideas of maybe if this pawn ends up moving, I can come back in the game real quick. But now black is winning. I play bishop here, but this pawn is not easy to get rid of, and it's dominating my knight. I am defending this, but he plays a good move here, knight d7. The idea of knight d7 is to come in with an attack on my queen and bishop. Also, this f5 idea is strong for black because really what it comes down to is this bishop can use this square and prevent my king from escaping, so that the rook and the queen coming down here with the knight blocking my rook would be a checkmate. That's actually, in my mind, why I screwed up. Is any time the bishop can use this with a check, even if he's checking first and then I'm coming here and then there's a check, it's just not good, especially if that's a queen. That's a classic way to get mated. So it's just not good for me. I decide to finally play b4. He takes, which I don't know why, but he does, and that activates my rook, and now I'm at least I'm activating on the queen side like I planned. And although I messed up this, now I'm out of the way of the bishop largely with these rooks, and I'm attacking something. He plays knight c5. I really thought he should be attacking my queen, but this is actually a good computer move, and he's now he's basically putting pressure on this without blocking his pieces from attacking this. And there's actually no way these rooks are gonna ever get back and be able to defend my weakness. And also the knight is having trouble, and the queen, if it steps to the side to try to play f3 and knight f2, as soon as the queen moves, his knight's crashing through, defended by the rook, and the bishop cannot fight against that. So I play the knight move, and the point of that is any check no longer wins my knight. And I'm also saying if you kill my bishop, I will take back with the knight and maintain my blockade. But black's position is very strong here because all four of these pieces are very powerful. Even this piece is kind of powerful, and this, obviously this pawn is powerful. So white's kind of doing nothing right now. So I take here with the idea of if you take back, I can just sack this pawn. And if I just sack it, I've gotten rid of my most annoying pawn, and then I'm winning this pawn. So I was like, I can just play here, and if he takes, I take. And so I haven't lost any pawns. The problem with that idea is when he takes back, whether with the bishop or with the pawn, this pawn is super strong. It's a protected pass pawn if he takes with the pawn. Also, there's attacks on my rooks from his queen after that. And then also, like he could just take the bishop and then a rook. Also, my queen being here can easily be harassed by the rooks. So I decide not to go in for that. And then I just decide, okay, well, I'm getting my ass kicked. I need to just go try to queen on the queen side, because at least that might force him to pay attention or blunder. So now he comes in with the win of a pawn, defended by the queen and the rook. If I take back with the bishop, he can take back with the queen, and if I take back, he's taking back with the rook, and I don't want to allow that. So I just decide to ignore the tension and just keep playing this pawn over there. because when the dust settles of the queen trade, I want a passed pawn to at least be threatening to queen. He plays this move attacking my rook, but this is a terrible move because you're allowing the rook to make use of this pawn. So I actually attack the queen here, defended by a pawn. And it's interesting now looking at it, the queen could sack herself, and if I take back, the rook can win my rook. So you can win 2 rooks here, but then you'd be losing this pawn and this knight kind of. So that doesn't really work. But anyway, that's the whole point of this move, is the queen is overloaded. My rook is functioning laterally, and the queen is trying to function this way, and the queen needs to maintain defense of this pawn because my queen is coming in. So the queen moves out of the attack, defends this pawn, still defending the knight. Everything looks okay for black, and I am 1994 in this game, and I find bishop takes knight because now the queen is officially overloaded and I have 1 apiece. And when she takes, I have check, and the king has to move, and it's mate. And so instead of taking, black has to just go here and try to defend, and then I can just exchange and plop a bishop here, put a knight here, and just this pawn has saved me the game. So yeah, so that was the winning combination, and I'm now 2002, and I'm very happy. I'm 2134 on Lead Chess, but I wanted to hit 2000 on chess.com. This was definitely more difficult, and I had to evolve my game a little bit, play a little faster, play for endgames a little more, and yeah, I'm really happy. It was really fun, and that's it. Thank you.